Welcome to the Win, Make, Give podcast. My name is Bob Stewart. I'm joined today by my friends Ben Kinney and Chad Hyams, as always. In today's call, Chad does an interview with former professional boxer Ed Latimore. And this is a guy that came from a life of poverty. He faced a number of addictions in his life, and he's totally transformed his life through boxing and through authoring a couple of books. Just a really great look into somebody not allowing their circumstances to dictate the outcomes in their life. So get ready to jump into the ring with Ed and Chad.
So here it is. It's Chad Hyams, and I'm getting the opportunity to interview Mr. Edward Latimore, heavyweight boxer. Now, that's not the only thing you're going to know Ed for by the time we're done this conversation, yet that's how I was first introduced to him. And when someone gives me the opportunity to talk to a man that'll stand in a ring and trade punches with someone else, that's somebody I want to have a conversation with. So, Ed, thanks for joining us here on the podcast here today.
Hey, thanks for having me, man. You know, trading punches in the ring, that's such a so I hurt just thinking about it.
Well, I look forward to asking you a little more about that. Yet before we get to that, Ed, you know, a lot of members of our audience might not know who you are. Would you mind giving us kind of your own words, a brief intro to who is Ed Latimore?
Yeah, no problem. So I'm Ed Latimore. Everything, out there on the internet, my social media, my website, everything, it's either edlatimore.com or at Ed Latimore. And I say that I get to make a living being myself and really being my best self. And that's because I've taken what I've learned the hard way. And I try to break it down so everyone else can learn it the easy way. I take lessons from my life growing up in public housing, in poverty, to battling alcoholism and overcoming that, to fighting in heavyweight boxing and, going back to school at a later age and getting my physics degree and working through the military and writing and self-publishing my books and everything like that. I think I'm one of the people in the self-improvement community that has the receipts for everything that he's done to show, life was like this. It is not like this anymore. Here's how we did it. Here's how you can learn from me.
Wow. I love the way you just said that, Ed, that you actually have the receipts. There's so many self-help people out there or people out there who say, this is how you should do it, yet they've never lived through it. So how do they really know?
Yeah, and what's really interesting is there's this whole thing going around on Twitter right now, and I think it extends greatly to it extends out to other platforms as well. They just have a name for it on Twitter. These platitude tweets that are just these ideas that sound good and sound useful, but are relatively generic. Like anyone could say it or do it or use it. And one of the things that I think distinguishes me, at least on that platform, and from being considered a kind of platitude guy, is that it all comes from my experience. So it's got a little bit of a twist on it. It doesn't sound so generic. And why should it? Because while I think there's no unique experience, there are unique interpretations of said experience, and in that you get your own kind of perspective. And I try and put that out there.
Wow. Well, I know I'm about to enjoy this interview when you can start it off like that, Ed. So I appreciate that. I'm really looking forward to getting into this with you. You said a lot of things in that quick little bio of yourself. I heard in there public housing, and I'm going to have to ask you about life, growing up through that and just surviving through that, because I know that can probably be a rough situation, all the way up to I heard military in there. So thank you for your service to our country. And I know you mentioned in there alcoholism. We're going to definitely come back and talk about how that impacted your life, changed your life, the lessons you learned from that. And then I saw when doing my research on you, I actually saw someone had described you as a retired professional heavyweight boxer, a physics graduate, former member of the U.S. National Guard, and Amazon bestselling author, public speaker. I mean, that's like 4 different people in one.
It's funny. I was just doing the bio for a new website that we're launching. We're taking the website now and giving it a whole facelift and everything. And one of the things I have to do is I have to write a bio on the site. So anyone who stumbles on me from various keywords, not necessarily looking for Ed Latimore, but something I write about, they can go, okay, who is this guy? And me being the creative that I fashion myself to be, I wrote it as something I always say to people, and it's always, I say I've lived 4 lives, and so like, and in each of those lives, I really try to learn something that makes it easier to live the next life. And I don't know what life 5, or maybe I'm in life 5 now, so what life 6 will look like. But I do know that as I continue to to get better at this life thing in a few more years I have left of it, I think that I'm going to go into it not only with an advantage, but also be able to help other people who perhaps want to learn different things and take different perspectives that they can do something with.
That's awesome. It's like a chapter of a book, and you just keep writing a bigger and bigger book, learning from the chapters before.
Yeah, and not only that, man, I think the book that I'm writing or authoring of my life has so many layers because I really started as poor as you can start in America. Now that I've gotten older and I finally can travel, I'm very careful to say poor in America because I've seen some stuff that would be considered middle class in other countries that if it was here in America, they'd want to take your kids away or something with child youth protective services. So very, very clear about that. And having that beginning, that origin, there is only one way to go up, and there are many layers to up, many levels you pass through. And I don't know if everyone learns from each level. I think I certainly try to.
Well, that's amazing. Ben Kinney, one of the founder of Win Make Give, he had one of those upbringings as well. We talk about on our podcast. He had a very tough, hard upbringing that he shared his story many, many, many times. I'd love to hear a little bit more about yours, as much as you're willing to go into that. You said you grew up poor in America and in public housing and all that. How did that impact you? Tell us a little bit about it. Take us back to there and tell us some of the lessons you did learn that helped you as you move to those next lives and next chapters from a young man living in that kind of life.
So one of the things I really picked up is how to not get in situations that only violence are going to get you out of. Where the cost of removing yourself from it far exceeds the value that you receive. In other words, I got really good at making friends, but making friends in a way where I didn't have to do the things that would make them more endeared to me, kind of engage in a lifestyle where perhaps I'm going to be more likely to be arrested or get into violent confrontations or get girls pregnant, things like that. Those are the 3 things that really uh, force the cycle to continue, and I broke out of that cycle due largely in part to the fact that I did not get sucked into it in the first place. But you still gotta walk to school every day. You're still a social person. You're still a kid, and so I really learned the value of being likable. And when you're likable, you you don't necessarily get extra protection, but you're not really a target anymore. People like people who can make them laugh and make them feel good. And I really took that lesson with me into other areas of my life. Like when I started boxing, and when you start boxing as an amateur, you're not paid or anything, but people still have to come see you, and that it kind of makes the directors decide who to put on shows. And if you can, if people are willing to come see you fight, it's it's good for your career. You get more opportunities, you get more fights. And then when you move to the professional level and you're fighting on club shows, same idea. If you can be like, if you can get people to go, I'm going to spend 30-40 bucks on this guy, and in my case, drive almost an hour to go see him on a Saturday night, no less. Yeah, you need to be likable to do that, and but you need to be likable in a way where you're not a pushover, because that no one respects a weak person, and I think humans have a very highly attuned sense of when it's kindness from strength and niceness from weakness, and so that kind of thing you really learn to carry. And even in the military, man, one time I when I was in basic training and trying to qualify for shooting, I actually failed my shooting exam. You get 3 times to do it, and then the bad part about that is it's like week 6 in the basic training, and then they recycle you from the beginning. They just make you do everything over again instead of just shooting. And I'm pretty sure that like hell is doing basic training over again. But I didn't have to do that because there was an opportunity where they gave a few people extra tries to shoot a 4th try, and understanding the principles of being likable, I could still use them even in an environment like that where you're not talking and you're not really able to express yourself. And I got one extra try and I passed it by the skin of my teeth, man. 23 out of 40 shots. You got to get that or higher. And I got that. And I was so like telling that story now, even though that was like 8 years ago, I can like feel the relief. And it's still, and it was a super hot day in August and in the middle of Missouri. And But likability, man, that's the big lesson. I mean, that's the positive lesson I took from it. There's some negative ones, but that's the biggest positive one.
That's an amazing lesson. How do you teach someone to be likable? I mean, Ed, if I sat you down with my daughter and said, teach her to be likable so that she has that advantage you had, or you're going back to helping some other kids, maybe going through the same upbringing you did. How do you teach someone to be likable? How can our audience take 2 or 3 tips away from you and become a little bit more likable as a person?
Well, counterintuitively, you have to not care what people think, but at the same time, you have to have a set of manners that says you're going to treat people well. Like it's not that people whenever people talk about not caring what people think and being your own person, they don't. It's too heavy. It's not nuanced, and more nuance gives us more precision. And we can say the key is to treat people well and to never embarrass, never humiliate, never go out of your way. Even if you're in a confrontation, never go out of your way to make the other person look bad, but hold your ground. And with that, also not care what people think when it comes to like what you're into, how you conduct yourself, that type of thing. Now, if you do this correctly, if you have a strong sense of how to treat people, but you also have a strong sense of who you are and what you're into, you'll always be likable. I know guys who are odd on paper is probably the best way to put it. But they people don't mind them being around because they treat people with respect and they treat people well in there, and they take an interest in the other person when they have a chance to. They don't go out of their way to act in a way to grab attention. If they get attention, it's just a natural byproduct of them being a good and solid person. And I think if you can do that, and I got a good friend. I learned a lot of. You're supposed to learn a lot from your friends, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I learned a lot from this guy just watching how well he just treated everyone around him. Right, nothing special, nothing crazy to the point where I was like, "Man, look at this cornball!" Right, but like eventually, it hit me. I was like, "Wow, he's doing this." And people really like this guy. I'm not naturally likable, I think, because I carry some insecurities that I'm always battling, and I think that's just part of who we are. But in watching this guy and his likability and what I got from him, yeah, I realized that treating people above all things, you can be the most boring person in the world, but if you own that. And don't make excuses for it. Look, man, if your thing is going home and watching a Netflix series and that's what makes you passionate, great. And you treat other people with respect, you're going to be okay.
All right. So I love it. Now, here I am talking to a retired boxer. Ed, you get into the ring, and the last thing you should be is likable and nice. I mean, you got to get in that ring, and you got to be a lion and going in there and all of that. So let's take a jump over to that, and I got to ask you the question. I've been in scraps as a kid, as every kid gets into. Yet I've never gotten into a ring with someone who has trained professionally to punch someone else. So I just got to ask you, as a boxer, what does it feel like to get hit by someone who is trained to do that?
It sucks. And because they know what they're doing, they do damage. Whenever I see these fight videos that circulate on the internet, my first thought, almost every time I saw one notable fight, and I was like, "Oh man, this person knows what they're doing." But my first thought is always, "Man, thank goodness these people have no idea how to like sit on punches and move their head and everything. It would be a lot more destructive." On that note, I watched the one video I saw. I was like, this person clearly knows what they're doing. It was some girl who was fighting, and even if fighting another girl on the street, and even then, right? And it's really interesting when you know what you're doing. This is why fighting, I think, is good, or at least this is a good thing about learning how to fight. You gain such a respect for violence and what it is capable of accomplishing. Because I'm watching this girl in this video, she's just toying with the girl pretty much. She's footwork's on point. She's stepping around, throwing off light jabs, just annoying the girl really and stepping around. At any given time, she could hurt her. And she had to, when the girl stepped up and really tried to wrestle, she just stepped off and landed it right, put the girl down, and she dropped her, and that was the end of it. But it could have been a lot worse. Like if this was a street fight with aggression, she would, follow up with kicks and punches when the girl's down. But like, no, that's what fighting does for you, is it makes you respectful of the violence. But in terms of when you're in there in the ring against someone trained, I mean, if they've been trained correctly, they know how to make every shot count. They know how to conserve energy in between not punching, so that everything they hit you with tends to be the most effective and efficient shot that they could get off at the time. If they've got any concept of defense, you're going to get tired because you're gonna miss most of your shots. I mean, a good fight with a good connect percentage at the highest level is like there's like 30%. That's exhausting to throw 10 punches and in a good fight miss 6 of them, right? Like that's miserable. And
sounds like a baseball game, right?
Right,
A good hitter misses 6 out of 10, if not even 7 out of 10 every time he goes up to the plate.
but he's got to swing like the Dickens every time. The difference is the ball is not trying to hit him back. Like he can walk to the dugout, and that's the end of it. Not so much in a fight. So one of the things we learn is that you throw the punch, but the minute that punch flies off, you've got to be aware of where you're open and use a lot of energy. Or at least more energy than I think a person would ever imagine, making sure that you're on point and on balance to absorb a shot that you'll have to defend from where you're weak at. And this is the real beauty of fighting, is that there's no way to separate offense and defense. They're one and the same. A good punch, by virtue of the punch being done correctly, defends at least 50% of your body, if not more, depending on the shot. Likewise, a good defensive maneuver should put you in position, depending on your reflexes and reaction speed, should put you in position to take advantage of a weakness that opens up. It's one of those things that, like, I'm really happy I decided to box, because it just makes something, it gives me an analogy, a thought process, a window to look at different things that are contests, whether it be as something as banal and as harmless as a debate, or something like a chess match. Even you get to understand the dance of combat.
Wow. And just listening to you there's so many lessons that you're sharing, right? That good offense is also a good defense. And it's how many times are we leaving ourselves open? We're in business or in a relationship or whatever it is, and we're doing something and we're not paying attention that we've left ourselves open over here for an attack against us or a weakness that we've put out there, that if we're doing it right, we should be able to turn that good offense into a good defense as well, which is amazing.
It's like in chess. One thing that I'm really, really putting a lot of time into my chess game. I've got a tutor, I've got books. I'm really, really, and it's enjoyable. But one of the things I really enjoy now that I'm thinking about the game correctly is that each move you make, even when you make the move that grabs the most initiative, an active attacking move, you have to be careful, because if you extend your position too much, you're not going. All it takes is one good move to get them in position, and you're going to have no way to recover, because you were not thinking. Now, chess, unlike a boxing match or anything that is continuous versus discrete, um, there is one move, one move, one move, one move. But in the box, if you throw that jab out and your chin is not tucked, they just come over the top with a right, and you're gonna be, it's gonna be a hard, long night. If you don't realize that they're coming over the top of your jab, and then you have to adjust. It's not a discrete thing like, oh, jab done, boom, and throw right after, that sort of deal. But the thought process is still the same. You gotta be tight and execute correctly in all phases. Otherwise, a good player, a good opponent is going to see those weaknesses, and not only see them, but know exactly where they should be if you're not on point, and attack them and test you immediately.
And the only good thing is that the bishop or the rook aren't attempting to punch you back.
Right.
So we
Exactly.
can always remember that. Now, Ed, you as we're talking about the fights, looking up your record, 13 1-1, right? It's a pretty good career. If someone said to me I could be 13 1-1 in a professional boxing career, I'd be okay. I'll probably take that. I get hit more than I'm getting hit if that's my record. 7 of your 13 wins were by knockout. Now, how does it feel? Something I'm never going to experience. How does it feel to knock
You never
somebody
know,
out?
right?
Well, I hope I won't experience it, let's say. How does it feel to knock someone out? I watched one of your fights. I saw you won that one on a knockout, but it was more like that guy kind of crumbled. Like you were just pummeling this guy that he just kind of crumbles to the ring and you just go over to your corner. But what's the feeling of really knocking someone out?
So it's cool. In boxing, they have 2 designations. They have a TKO, a technical knockout, and a knockout. And the difference between the two is a technical knockout is when the referee waves off the fight, and a knockout is when you don't answer the 10 count, right?
Okay.
Or the shot is so violent. You see this every now and then, where the ref waves it immediately, and I've never seen them be wrong. The guy usually is close to dead, right? As far as the difference, or as far as what it feels like, the purest kind of knockout. You're not really expecting it. Because because the better you get, the less you try to go for one punch knockout kind of things. It's like whenever someone gets knocked out, it's the result of you just popping everything off correctly with the right technique and the right and as efficiently as possible. That's very important. And because you're doing everything correctly and your reflexes are good, you know where the weaknesses and openings should be. You're just letting it loose, and then one gets through, right? There's not a lot of thinking in the fight. There's no time. It's you reacting to what you've trained, and if you're executing right against someone you technically overmatched usually, right? And you're going to get through and hit them in such a way where they're just not going to be ready for it. And so like it's a surprise. If you watch a lot of fights, when guys get knocked out, when they get put down, the opponent, the guy that does the lands the knockout shot, it's not surprise per se, but it's like they were expecting to be in a position to continue fighting and following up. A lot of times it's not just, it's very rarely, I pop that one shot off and I'm stepping back and admiring my work and looking to see if this guy falls off. It's not like shooting a jumper in that sense. It's like, here's a combination and a flurry. I'm going to break in a combination and get ready to follow it with something. And then I look and see, oh, he looks hurt. That's something we learn in fighting. We learn to not look hurt. Like a good fighter does not let it show that shot hurt him. And what I learned very quickly is everything hurts, right? So you need to man, your poker face has got to be on. Otherwise, you're going to be in trouble.
Wow. All right. I mean, and there's some great lessons in there again, because for anybody in all the areas that we cover in their life and their career and their business, they might not be in a boxing ring, but it's learning that we're not going in looking for that one punch or that home run in that at bat. I mean, maybe Mark McGwire and Sammy Sosa back in the day, they came up to the plate looking for the home run, but it's, wow, you're going out there just hitting the ball and it just hits just right and off it goes, or a punch just connects just right. You're going out there doing your job day in, day out, punch after punch after punch. And then sometimes one of them just connects that good that it calls it complete.
Right. One of the things we're told, don't look for the knockout. I mean, now there are situations where you do, like if you're going into the final round and it's very clear that like you're down on points, and
or if you're Mike Tyson.
Well, yeah, and the really interesting thing about Mike, I mean, talk about building a legend, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because here's a guy, if you talk to pundits and anyone that really knows boxing, they're not gonna put Mike Tyson in their top 5 heavyweights, let alone all-time boxers. But what he did from a marketing standpoint is incredible, where he just demolished these guys with these vicious shots and these vicious hits. But also, there's the marketing part, but a lot of people don't realize how just beautifully technical Mike Tyson was. All he did, especially in his first 20 something fights, all he did was follow the system laid out by him by Customato, and man, I can't remember, that's on the tip of my tongue, I'll remember. But his other trainer, Mike Rooney, right, is that he just moves his head. He's got these shots. He's the hooks to the body, hooks to the head, the uppercuts, and it's such an automatic system. But he's so explosive and powerful that speed catches. That little area where you can get a hit. Because there's no such thing as a perfect defense. As Tyson's always going to be there because he's so fast. It wasn't when did he lose to guys, the highly technical fighters. Well, not Buster Douglas. There's that fight, and people talk about that, but he was being a fool that week, just partying. But even still, just partying, not really training, not really. He goes into the 8th round, almost wins the fight, right? Early when he knocked Douglas down, but when he lost to Holyfield, right? Holyfield's a great fighter who understands timing, position, and all that stuff, and just fought smart, and more importantly, fought efficiently. Efficiency is such a big deal because the idea, because you have two different competing agendas. You have offense and defense, and you have to find the most efficient way to be offensive and defensive.
And again, lessons that come into every area of our life, that efficiency and using our time wisely and our energy wisely so that we're making the most of it. And all I know about Mike Tyson, other than watching him, growing up through all of that, is that I could beat him on the Nintendo for Punch-Out. That's about it for me. But, even when you mentioned Mike Tyson there, who is someone that if you mention his name to anybody, they know who he was, even if they weren't a boxing fan, right? But even as you mentioned Mike, you immediately followed it up by mentioning his trainers. And I know that no one succeeds alone.
Kevin Rooney, that's the name, by the way, in case anyone's listening. I got it wrong. I said Mike.
There you go.
But yeah.
There you go. So even as though you're there's probably nothing more one-on-one than boxing in that sense. You're in the ring, it's you versus the other guy, and it's throwing the punches. Yet no one succeeds alone. You've got a team of people. You got your ring, you got your corner crew, you got your trainers, you got your this. You don't just become 13 1-1 because you're good. It's because you've got the people around you. Talk about the people that we surround ourselves with, the power of that. I know that also comes up in one of your books. You talk about the people that you're putting around you and all of that kind of stuff. Let's talk about, how do you choose to surround yourself with those right people? How do you look for the right people to surround yourself with? And how do you pour back into those people to make sure that they are always there with you?
Okay, so when it comes to building the right circle, a large part of it is, what is the power of the person who has who's trying to build the circle, right? where are you at? Who are you? What are you doing with your life that someone goes, you know what, I want to be part of this. I want to be on this team. Okay. And I'm a really big proponent of a person building themselves up and then discerning who you let in and you bring in. But you gotta have your mind right. You have to there's two parts. You have to be about something that even makes people be interested in the first place. And you also have to go, okay, this is so important to me that I need to keep out anyone who's a distraction, who's a problem. At the very least, I need to, actively ignore them, right? And just
Okay.
kind of throw the shade, so to speak. If you do those two things, what you'll find is that most people are not going to pass the test, but the people that do, um, they're gonna make a huge difference in your life, and it only really comes from a place of you gotta have this unreasonable arrogance almost that you know it's best for your life, but you want the best. It's not just what feels good, because a lot of people follow that, but it's the ability to go, okay, this might suck and I might not want to do this, but I have to do it. So let me put myself around people who can help me get there. That's the hard part. A lot of us, we fall into building a group that just makes us feel good, and that's
Mm.
not really going to help you, right? But like, think about it, it's like the tell of picking a coach. Everyone says they want the best coach, but you probably aren't going to like your coach if he's good. I mean, that's just how because he needs to be a bit of an a-hole to you, because he's got to get you to work. He's got to get you to do things more. He's got to get you to do more than you thought you were capable of. And to do that is not a fun process. No one goes, "Oh, I ran 5 miles a day." I mean, he was on my ass the whole time, and then we went and sparred and worked out. And he said I was worthless. I mean, and said I couldn't cut out to do this. But and few of us have the wherewithal to go, you know what? He's just trying to weed out the weak parts and see if keep the strong parts around. It's just like SEAL training, right? The whole idea of like Hell Week and everything in SEAL training is to weed out people who are not mentally there, and to a lesser extent in not just combat sports, but we can even say for the people that we surround ourselves by in our social lives, our professional life. We want the people that are going to bring out the best in us, and a lot of times that means not selecting the people who are the most fun to spend time around, because fun is great, right?
Yep.
But the things that like your typical like 25-year-old might think is fun or whatever, heavy drinking and all the craziness that comes with that, that is not going to help you. You got to decide, okay, is this what I want to be? Or do I want to be full-time about this and part-time about my goals? Or do I want to be full-time about my goals and part-time, blow off some steam, or cut it all out, right?
Yep.
You got to decide.
That's great. I mean, you mentioned that. And I'm thinking about Bob and Ben and myself from the podcast here. You got to choose the right people to have around you. I mean, we will call each other out. We will push each other and challenge each other and bring that accountability to each other. Doesn't matter who's who. You've got to make sure you're surrounding yourself with those people that will not just be there for the fun. If you're looking to choose the right people to around you, it's got to also be the people who are looking to help you get where you want to go and can help you get where you want to go by choosing those people correctly. Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
great point.
it's so important. I am of the belief, that no company is worse than bad company. If you can't find people who are about what you're about, and more importantly, if you're only surrounded by people who want to take you off your path, or get you engaged in activities that make it likely that you're going to fall off your path, you have to cut them out. One of the things that I did when I got sober, and I have great friends. Like, I mean, we're talking guys that I have known longer than I haven't, right? And
Yep.
that's a rare thing today. Uh, but I have that. But when I got sober, I had to go, okay, these guys don't have a problem. I do. So what I gotta do though is I gotta distance myself from that whole life for a while so I can build up a new habit and become more confident in my ability to go out socially and not drink. And it had nothing to do with the quality and the caliber of my friends, but the activity that they did, by definition, was counter to what I was trying to do and become. And I knew me. I was like, okay, if I'm gonna probably fall off, so let me. And I don't want to fall off because I was worried and so scared about what could happen. So I had to. But so there's that thing. I could go with what feels good, or I can take the hard choice and go, okay, no fun for me, man. I got to be pushed and pushed and pushed, and it made a big difference. Now, I can see them, whatever. It doesn't matter if they're drinking around me, but that takes so much time, and you got to be willing to sacrifice what you feel is the most fun for a moment. Life ain't all fun. I wish people got that. It ain't about being happy all the time.
Oh, say that again.
Life's not about being happy all the time. I
Hmm.
really believe that.
Okay. Sometimes we have to put that aside and push through the challenges to have happiness on the other side.
Absolutely.
Some things are not fun or not make us happy to get to what we're looking for.
And here's what I think about the whole idea of being happy, is that happiness is a positive externality, or perhaps a byproduct of conquering challenge. And conquering challenge is not usually a happy time, because you have to put yourself in the positions where you're weak or inadequate or unprepared and still push through that is not a happy feeling.
Sure.
But once you overcome it, then you go, wow, I did that. I did it. Boom. Let me be happy for a moment. And then you
Hmm.
can and then you keep building, keep building, and keep building. But I really think happiness is just a derivative of growth. And sadness is a derivative of loss. So,
Hmm.
but it's not the act of, there is no happiness destination, because it's a rate of change. If there is no change, if you're not doing anything, if you're not getting better, if you're not bonding with people, deepening your relationships, etc., then eventually you'll just be going, wow, what is the point of all this? I am not happy. Well, because you missed the point. You don't arrive at happiness. It's like a carrot on a stick, man. As long as that carrot is wagging, you're gonna keep running and you're gonna feel good. But once you catch the carrot, you're gonna be like, "Oh, this is a good carrot." And you're like, "Yo, I just realized, man, it was more fun chasing it. I don't even like these damn carrots. Like, it's sitting there, and and that's how you're gonna feel. And then all of a sudden, you're gonna be you're gonna have all the carrots you could have, not want any of them, and say,
Hmm.
and next thing you know, you're wondering why you're depressed or why you're sad, and although on the outside it looks like you have everything, and even on the inside you're like, well, I have this and this, what's next? I think the average, I think people who are the happiest really get this, and it's not even, and they're pursuing something. They're building a family, or they're working on a business project. We shouldn't, they talk about workaholics and they need to stop and smell the roses, and I'm like, well, no one ever considers that the work probably makes them happy, and their mental health is probably better when they're working hard. You don't want to disrupt that. You get more from the person when you see less of them, I think.
Hmm. That's a really interesting statement, Ed. I've never looked at it that way. You're right. We tell people they should stop and smell the roses, yet maybe they're actually in their happiness zone doing what they were doing, and we should just leave them alone. Maybe they don't like roses.
Exactly. Look, I am very much of the opinion that as long as a person is behaving in a way where they don't draw in, or where they don't hurt in a sense. And my idea of an innocent is someone who is not, playing the game to hurt other people, and and they're content. Let them be. And if you're not on the page with them, go find somebody else's book you dig, man. But if you are, you got to understand that's how they are, and you take that. And this is, I think, really another key to building up a circle of people who really support you, and likewise you want to support them because they get it. Imagine like you had a friend who just felt like they needed to see you every day, and you're like, I need to see this guy maybe once a month. We should be busy working. You guys probably aren't going to be doing like we gonna do, right? It's just not gonna vibe. But if you get two guys who are really chasing things and don't have time for one another, and then when they link up, they're gonna feel good. They're gonna get a lot out of the relationship. Likewise, if you have two people who, that's what they do, like every Friday they like watch some show or something. I don't know. All right. That's what they do. Or two guys in there, they feel like they got to play Xbox all the time or PS4. I hate on none of these activities, man, because at the end of the day, as long as a person is really good and content, then all the power to them, because it's hard enough finding contentness and happiness in this world.
Sure, sure. And your goals and your dreams and your desires have nothing to do with theirs. So you should enjoy yours and let them enjoy theirs.
Absolutely, because
Got
look,
it.
another lesson I learned from a friend, man. You're supposed to learn from friends. I learned from a friend who has a very, not very, but noticeably different goals than me. Uh, that it was possible to be happy for someone, even if their success looks nothing like what you would want your success to look like.
Hmm.
And that's a hard, I think that is hard for people to be like, I'm to legit, because I mean some people say, oh, I'm happy for you, but I really feel like this person's happy for me. I know my goal is to look nothing like hers. I mean, it's just not even close. And I was like, wow, I don't know how you could be happy just hanging out and living in the same town forever and getting a house and just settling down with your pets and your plants. But that's like that makes her happy. Like, and likewise, my life must look ridiculous, but still happy that I'm achieving it. And likewise, I'm like, you know what, it taught me a valuable lesson. And then now, I carry that with me and everything, with everyone I interact with. As long as you get what you're going after, and not just settling because it's too hard to attain or too difficult, then I can be very happy for you.
All right. So I'm here with Ed Latimore, and you can find him many places socially. We're not done yet. I was checking out your Twitter feed at Ed Latimore, and I was scrolling, and I came across one you had tweeted recently. Ed, you said, if you learn how to listen, a person will tell you anything you want to know. If you learn how to speak, a person will do anything you want them to do. That even in this technology advanced world, communication skills still reign supreme. Talk about that. What motivated that? What was the message behind that? I just thought that was really powerful when I saw that jump out at me as I was going through your Twitter feed. That one really caught my eye.
I have these random. I mean, they're not random, but I have these thoughts about like what is responsible for anything that I have or have not gotten in the past. And I found that without fail, and this goes to the likability. If back to likability. A big part of communication, if not the majority of it, is listening to another person. But it's not just listening. I mean, I think about some of the weirdest conversations, weirdest / worst conversations I ever had, and they were the ones where like it was just a series of questions, and I was like, okay, one or two, that's cool, and it was just like interview, and the person tells me nothing about themselves. I don't, and then I don't have a sense of what I'm talking to. I just feel like, or who I'm talking to, I just feel like I'm being interviewed. And I think that the key is to make a person feel like they are a part of a new world, and that world is your world of communication. Or rather, communication is how you bridge that gap, make a person feel part of your world. And it can't just be magnetic, and it can't just be repulsive. You can't just ask. You can't just talk. You have they work together. It's like two sides of the same coin. It's a yin and yang kind of deal. Sometimes you got to be a little yin, and you got to listen, 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 listen. But at the same time, they're like, okay, now we got to balance that out. Some communication. And if you do those two things well, you will never, ever, ever be at a loss for people who want to talk to you. And you will never, ever, ever be at a loss for people who are willing to help you and do favors for you. But the key is understanding this basic thing of communication. If you communicate with no other intent at all, just communicate with the idea that conversation is a dance. You can't just be the leader and you can't just be the follower. You have to switch, 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 switch. And if you do that, you're going to pull people in.
Love that. All right, let me get the timeline from you here. All right, so you mentioned in there your sobriety. Alcohol was an issue for you when?
I probably realized things were going really bad about 25, 26.
Okay. And the boxing career was when?
I started my first amateur fight, I was 22. My first professional fight, I was 28.
Okay, so it was kind of while you were becoming a fighter.
Oh, absolutely. Probably.
Okay.
Yeah. Oh, man. Yeah. I mean, and boxing certainly doesn't, believe it or not, boxing makes you, it makes you popular, right? And then popularity, like money, does not do anything but exaggerate your qualities for better and worse.
Oh, I like that, Ed. So
And
popularity, like money, just exaggerates the character that's already there, is what you're telling me.
yeah,
Okay.
it didn't reveal anything new. It's just, my worst habits got worse, my good habits got great.
Okay.
Or rather, my bad habits got worse, my good habits got great. And
Wow.
one of
Okay.
them,
Yeah.
yeah, man, I'm not a middle ground kind of guy. That's just the reality of it. And I knew that I was drinking more. Like I knew this, and I knew it was affecting me. I mean, there were times where I was trying to alter my schedule so I could go drink, or think I could drink in the morning and be sober by the time I went to practice in the afternoon or evening. Just full of stuff. And then I'll never forget the time I said, okay, I have to go hardcore and start dropping out. I had a few different moments, I guess. One of the big ones is when I realized that reputation was really garbage, and no one was really what was being presented to me was not what was being said behind my back, and I was like, okay, that kind of bugged me. And then I remember one time I tried to tell some people that I wasn't going to go out because I didn't have any money. And they were like, "Oh, don't worry about it. We'll pay for your drinks." Because I was winning fights and people wanted to be surrounded by somebody who they felt was cool and interesting. And I was like, "Wow!" So I can't just, I can't kind of BS my way out of this. I got to make a hard decision to go. I'm not drinking, and wherever the chips may fall after that. There was a time where I woke up at my friend's house. Wasn't sure how I got there. I was like, all right, I'm lucky, because dude, for every guy like me, there are, or the way I like to look at it, forget this way, I like to look at it like like an alternative timeline. And an alternative timeline, I'm serving life for like killing somebody because I was drinking and got behind the wheel. And I'm really happy that nothing like that ever happened. I never hurt anybody, but I'm not going to sit here and say that it's because I was careful. No, I was a reckless drunk like everybody else. I'm just, I made a change before the law of large numbers caught up to me. A lot of people do not. They one wrong move and their entire life is kaput. I remember when I went to when the first time I went to Canada, I drove to Canada, and when you drive, you show your passport at the border, and I remember thinking how lucky and how happy I was that I could enter this country with no issue. Because when you have a DUI, you can't go into Canada, right? And it's little things like that. I think about the poor soul in the alternative timeline, or in the present timeline. Somebody who I just tweeted the other day as a small promotion of my book. Plus, I mean, it's a good point. Is that there are a lot of people who may not have any problem whatsoever with alcohol, and one bad night, wrong place, wrong time, and their entire life is ruined. And the degree of ruin just depends on the degree of bad luck.
Hmm. Thankfully, you are not living those timelines, and you made the change, and you were able to take the steps you needed to, and um, congratulations to you, because it's not an easy decision to have made, I'm sure. But without getting into it too much, I want to get into one of your books. You wrote a book, and I love the title of this book, Not Caring What Other People Think is a Superpower. And I think that's a great title to a book because, well, I believe that. Not caring what other people think is a superpower. Talk about the book. Talk about some of the lessons from the book for me. Let's wrap this opportunity to connect with you today. Talk to me about some of those things, about what you mean by not caring what other people think is a superpower. And one of the things I noticed in there is you talk about having that mindset and being able to shift your mindset. You talk about standards and how important they are. Let's talk about a few of those things, Ed, as we kind of bring this to a close and share a little bit from not caring what other people think is a superpower.
So the whole idea is that you have to decide what's important for you. And one of my biggest issues, is I like the popularity drives a lot of poor decisions. It's like, oh, we like being around people. We like being liked. Let's do things to be liked. When the reality is we probably should do more things to be respected. And a lot of times those are not the same action. That Venn diagram and the overlap, things to be respected, things to be liked, is small. And I know that the ruin that I experienced in my life and the problems and challenges came from taking actions to try and be likable. When the reality is I should have been doing more to be respected. But the only way to do that is you can't care what people think. Okay, it goes back to what I was saying earlier about how we forget that when we talk about not caring what people think, we're talking about uh, we're talking about not about how they perceive things that we do for ourselves, not how we treat others, right? That's what we want to be perceived a certain way, and sometimes that does lead to us, treating others negatively. But the lessons in the book, I selected a few topics that made a really big difference in me turning my life around. A lot, self control and discipline, relationships. I even have a chapter on the use of time and sobriety, and your relationships and things like that are really important. I think if you focus on what's important, you have like the natural byproduct is you stop caring about external approval and you start caring more about building a set of values and sticking to those.
Oh. How many people do you think probably have the challenge of not looking for those internal, but they are looking for that popularity? They are looking to be liked instead of necessarily be respect. Do you find in the people that you're talking to that that's a 90 to 10% split that people have this challenge that we're facing?
Oh man, it's probably at least because because here's the thing, one is a very easy, fast route with a lot of quick fixes, not a lot of things that endure. But here's the funny thing about acting in a way that makes you respected is that at the beginning it's not only difficult, but weaker minds, the kinds that we're going to naturally be that we're going to be interested in you, they're not going to like it, and you're gonna misconstrue that negative attention that you initially receive, not realizing that all you got to do is stick through the initial discomfort, do a few things in this vein of being respected, and all of a sudden a whole new world opens up to you where being liked does correlate with being respected. It's only at the lower levels, I think, that Venn diagram does not overlap. When I say lower levels, I mean people who are not pursuing a life of intention. I think many people are not living intentionally. But when you start this way, yeah. But I think but many people do not have the I will say motivation or resolve to stick through that initial phase, and I think that's a big problem. But once you start doing it, once you start living in a way where you're like me, I want people to look at me and go, okay, that's a good example to follow, whether it be for you or for your kids or anything like that. Then I think where you get a lot closer to the path of a life that's gonna be fulfilling to you. Because I also think chasing the approval of other people is not fulfilling, man.
Well, that's so fickle, right? It's the carrot, and you're never going to get that one. And even if you do, again, as soon as you start to bite down on it, someone's going to throw it away from you.
Right.
That one's a very
The
fickle one.
carrot's going to change. First it was a carrot, then it's going to be a zucchini. And you're like, what the heck? I'm allergic to zucchini.
Yes, absolutely. You've seen many zucchinis on sticks. So, Ed, what I'm hearing from you, going all the way back, at the beginning of this conversation, we were talking about being likable. Being likable. Being likable kept you from getting in a lot of trouble at a young age. Being likable got you through, not necessarily, as you said, getting ahead in things, but it maybe didn't make you a target in things because people liked you. Got you to be able to survive certain situations. It got you to a point where people wanted to come see you fight. You were likable. It probably is the reason people come and hear you when you do a keynote speech somewhere, because you're likable, and they find that out about you. Yet at the same time, once you've developed a foundation of being likable, then it becomes working on being respected, because you're going to need to have both of them in your life, but you have to probably have that one to be able to start achieving the other.
I wouldn't say that it's so sequential, but I think that it's necessary to do both, especially if you have any type of inkling to lead people or to get people to pay attention to you, because it's this weird relationship. You got to do what makes you likable in a way that makes you respectable.
Yep.
Because you can be likable in a lot of ways to a lot of different people, and a lot of that stuff is not going to translate into being respectable. But if you just act in a way at all times, utmost respect, super rigid, you're gonna repel people, because it's not connecting with people. You got to be able to do it, and sometimes that means not taking yourself seriously. Or a lot of times it means not taking yourself too seriously. A lot of times it means, like I love trashy TV and watching football. Things that, like, if you let the hustler memes and motivation porn tell you, no, you shouldn't be about that, and then you watch and it is kind of silly, and there perhaps some odd characters, but you got to be able to connect to people. You got to find some way to connect and step down from your high psychological horse and go, okay, I'm still a person. I'm still in the world of people. I still want to connect. You can't live by people alone. Either that, or you find a tribe of people who don't do any of it. I mean, which is certainly another way. But my point is that uh, being likable and being respectable is eventually possible, but it's a long road, and it's a road that forces you to grow. And if you embrace that, because growth comes with challenges, so you got to embrace facing challenges. You're going to do okay. You're going to do okay. The moment you decide to take a shortcut, that was a big shortcut for me. I wanted to be I wanted to be known as a party guy that could drink and booze with everybody. Right? That's a shortcut. That's an awful shortcut. Instead of the guy who was disciplined, can offer value to a person's life, help them become someone, help someone grow. That's what I think. That's what I try to be now, and I am 10 times, at least 10 times happier. Right, but these are lessons you learn through life. So don't
Ed,
take the shortcut.
don't take the shortcut, right? And what I'm hearing is that likable and respectable. Now that I'm hearing you say that again, what I'm hearing now you tell me is likable and respectable. It's like that good offense is a good defense. It's both sides of the coin in there. And if we have the good offense, the good defense is there. If we have a good defense, we're probably creating that good offense when we're in the ring, as you were giving us that example to take out into the real world. Can also work with that likable and respectable. We got to have that delicate balance of both, but one can connect to the other.
Absolutely.
All right. So Ed, if someone wants to get a hold of you before we get to the end of this, it's Ed Latimore, and it's spelled just like it sounds, right? Latimore, and it's edlatimore.com, right?
I'm so happy, man, because a lot of people spell it Latimer. But
no, more. Like I want more of you, right? So everybody knows
right.
to spell it right. So it's edlatimore.com. It's Ed Latimore on Twitter. It's how else can they find you if they want to connect with you after this conversation?
You named it, man. EdLatimore.com. I have a little contact form on the website. Ed Latimore Twitter. My DMs are open because I believe the platform ultimately is about connecting. And my Instagram, you can message me there. Ed Latimore is my Instagram handle. My Facebook is my full name, or Ed Latimore Boxer. I actually need to look in to see if I can just change it to Ed Latimore. I made my fan page back when I was pretty sure I was going to be, where I thought I was going to box as long as possible, but
sure,
but
absolutely.
Then that's how you have to think.
Yep, you sure do. We have to do that with all of the things we do. So folks, don't hesitate to connect with Ed on one of his various platforms after this if you got something from it. Ed, on behalf of the Win, Make, Give team, I really want to thank you for taking the time to join us today and to share with our audience. Folks, remember, you can always go to winmakegive.com to find out what's going on with us. You can join us at Win, Make, Give group on Facebook. Just go search for it and we're there. And in the meanwhile, remember to always wash your hands and do good.